The 911 dispatcher's voice crackled through the patrol car radio with the kind of steady calm that only came from years of handling chaos. All units, we've got a report of a male subject evading mandatory HOA compliance by barricading himself in his residence. Caller claims the individual may be armed and potentially hostile. Address: 47 Lakeshore Drive, Meadow Pine Estates. I nearly choked on my morning coffee. That was my address. The so-called dangerous fugitive they were talking about was none other than me, Police Chief James Reeves. Through the windshield, I could already see 3 patrol units winding their way up the road toward Meadow Pine Estates. Their sirens were silent, but the blue and red lights flashed like warning beacons in the early morning mist. I set my travel mug down, straightened my badge out of habit, and stepped from my unmarked sedan just as the first squad car rolled into my driveway. Deputy Walsh was the first to emerge, hand instinctively drifting toward his duty belt before recognition dawned across his face. "Chief Reeves," he said, sounding equal parts confused and embarrassed. I gave him a dry smile. "Morning, Walsh. Let me guess. Patricia Hartwell." His shoulders slumped as he keyed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. We've made contact with the subject at 47 Lakeshore. It's Chief Reeves." False alarm. Repeat, false alarm. A tired sigh echoed back through the static. "Copy that, Unit 12. Third false call from that address this month. My name is James Reeves, and at 44 years old, I thought I'd seen it all in my 20-year law enforcement career. After years as a detective lieutenant in the city, I'd accepted the position of police chief in the quiet lakeside town of Meadow Pine Valley. Population 8,000 on a busy summer weekend. The job came with a nice pay bump, the promise of slower days, and more time to tinker with vintage motorcycles. I was expecting fewer midnight calls about gang activity, not a neighborhood tyrant. Enter Patricia Hartwell, the self-proclaimed Empress of Meadow Pine Estates, HOA. I'd bought my modest ranch-style home 6 months ago. Lured by the calm surroundings and the close proximity to Lake Sterling. The realtor had mentioned an HOA in passing. I figured it was the usual stuff. Keep the lawns trimmed, no neon paint, nothing crazy. I was wrong. Patricia Hartwell was 62, a retired middle school vice principal, and she ran the HOA like a thief. She wore her HOA president title like a crown, complete with a laminated badge she'd had made at the local print shop. Her arsenal consisted of a grass-height measuring tape, an approved color wheel, and a smartphone filled with every city official's contact information. Our very first encounter had been unforgettable. I was unloading boxes on Mavine Day when she appeared at my elbow like a ghost armed with a clipboard. "Welcome to Meadow Pine Estates," she said with a smile that didn't even pretend to reach her eyes. "I'm Patricia Hartwell, HOA president. I'll need your moving truck permit, your approved color scheme for any future modifications, and your landscaping plan within 72 hours. When I politely told her I had no modifications planned and that the moving truck would be gone within the hour, her smile tightened like a drawstring. "Everyone has modifications, eventually," she replied sweetly. "Better to be prepared. Oh, and your mailbox is half an inch below regulation height. You'll want to fix that immediately." I should have known right then that Patricia wasn't the bake sale and holiday lights kind of HOA president. The real trouble started 3 months later, when I missed a quarterly HOA meeting. Not because I wanted to skip it, mind you. I'd actually planned to spend that Thursday evening listening to the riveting debate about approved mulch colors and the HOA's ongoing war against dandelions. But 30 minutes before the meeting, I got the call. A hit and run on Highway 12. Margaret Chen, 78 years old, was sideswiped while walking her poodle. The dog was fine. Margaret had a broken wrist, and we had a suspect to catch. Call me crazy, but I figured catching a fleeing felon took priority over arguing about bird feeder limits. Patricia disagreed. The next morning, a flyer was tucked under my windshield wiper in Comic Sans font that screamed passive aggression. Attendance builds community. Your neighbors noticed your absence at last night's crucial meeting. We discussed important matters, including but not limited to the Amendment 2 Section 4.3b regarding decorative garden gnome height restrictions. Your input was missed. I laughed, tossed it in the trash, and went on with my day. That was mistake number 1. 2 days later, a certified letter landed in my mailbox outlining how my pattern of non-participation in HOA community building exercises could trigger an emergency residency review. 3 pages long, 17-sided bylaws, more whereas statements than a congressional bill. I read it over breakfast, laughed again, and recycled it. Mistake number 2. Patricia escalated like a general prepping for the day. First came the wellness checks, which she insisted on calling community care visits. The first one happened at 6:15 a.m. on a Saturday. I opened the door, blurred and wearing pajama pants, to find her on my porch with a deck stain color fan. "Just checking on your deck coloration," she chirped, leaning to peer around me like a raccoon after garbage. Some neighbors are concerned it may be drifting toward unauthorized auburn rather than approved mahogany. I didn't even have a deck. She made a note on her clipboard. "Planning to add one then? You'll need 3 forms and architectural approval." Then came the surveillance. 2 weeks later, she installed what she called a bird-watching camera on her property, perfectly angled at my driveway. She claimed it was for purple finch migration. Somehow, the only thing it ever recorded was me coming and going. And of course, she couldn't resist the social media campaign. Patricia posted a grainy photo of me on the neighborhood app with the caption, "Unknown male, possible drifter, seen entering residence at odd hours. Stay vigilant." The photo was literally of me in full uniform, badge shining on my chest. Most neighbors ignored it, but her loyal trio of retired busybodies liked, commented, and shared it like it was breaking news. One comment said, "I've seen him, too. He drives very slowly past the playground." "Yes, Karen," I muttered when I saw it. "That's called obeying the 15 meters speed limit." Another neighbor chimed in. "He seems to get a lot of packages. Suspicious." I was living in a small lakeside community, but thanks to Patricia, it felt like I'd moved straight into a surveillance state. The packages, of course, were nothing more sinister than car parts for my '67 Mustang restoration project. But in Patricia's world, apparently having hobbies was grounds for suspicion. Then came what I've come to call the meeting incident, though in the official police records, it's labeled as misuse of emergency services. Case number 2,024,179. It was a Thursday night. I'd set a phone reminder, laid out a clean shirt,